Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Speak On It. I'm your boy R.W. Coolins, episode 6, 2022. It's an unscripted Saturday, baby. It's unscripted Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. Y'all know what time it is. It's ready to get into this. Y'all ready? Let's go ahead. What's going on, everybody? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Speak on this show. Saturday morning, y'all know what time it is. You know what time it is. First and foremost, giving honor to God who allows me to come at you in this manner on a weekly basis. We're back. Episode 6, Unscripted. That's where we're at today. But let's go ahead and get these good mornings out the way. Good morning, Brian Hoodie. Appreciate the support, my brother. Appreciate the support. And let's get these formalities. R.W. Coolins all over all social media platforms. rwcoolins.com is the website. You can go there. Also, we're broadcasting live on YouTube and Facebook. So if you haven't subscribed to YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. If you're following me on Facebook or YouTube or wherever your followers follow the show at, share. Invite people in, let them know what's going on here with the Speak on this show. What we always do about this time every Saturday morning. Raymond Hunter, good morning, my brother. Good morning. Appreciate the support, my man. Appreciate the support. That's what we do here on the Speak on the show. And we're going to continue doing what we're doing. Call in number 844-904-2665, 844-904-2665. No matter what the situation is, let your voice be heard. All we ask is if you mean what you say what you mean what you say, the way I always do it. Call in his friends, we leave his friends. Any opinion, any conversation that we have is all out of getting better understanding of where other people sit as far as what the conversation and the topics that we're talking about on the Speak On It show. Also, you can download the audio after the show on Spreaker.com or Apple iTunes. On Apple iTunes, search Speak On the Show. On Spreaker, search R.W. Coolins. It's a difference in the two. Don't ask me the questions. Just go find the show and download it and share it with other folks. Let them get involved in what we're doing over here on the Speak On the Show. Gary Burns, good morning, my brother. Good morning. Appreciate the support. So here we are, y'all. We're in Black History Month. Let me just put it out there. I haven't seen a lot of posts about Black History Month. I haven't seen a lot of information. There's a lot of things on Netflix and different specials and things like that. But not as much as we normally see. I don't know. I think, people are trying to get through this pandemic and everything. It's not minimizing Black History Month, but I think there's a lot of events of Black History Month that we haven't been able to celebrate and do what we normally do. And we only got another week. But as I always say, Black History Month is just not the month of February. It's an everyday event. It's an everyday life. It's who we are as a people every day of the year. So Black History Month just lets us identify for a month, like to celebrate other holidays. However, we should be learning about Black history every day throughout the year and teaching our young kids and the younger generation what they need to know about our history in this United States of America. So, Super Bowl. Super Bowl was last week. Super Bowl Sunday. Everybody had the TV on and everything. And most people were excited, from what I've heard, about seeing the halftime show. Now, some people protesting the NFL, because of the lack of hiring of Black coaches and everything. Everyone has their own opinions about it, with the Kaepernick and everything. With Kaepernick's stance. Let me not minimize his stance on what he was kneeling for. Let's just go there. But this week I seen a lot of chitter chatter here and there about the Super Bowl and everything didn't revolve around the game. Everything I've read revolved around the halftime show. Some people were happy with it, because we got to see Snoop, Dre, Mary J. Blige, Kendrick Lamar, 50 Cent made a surprise appearance and everything. They fat shamed 50 Cent, talking about, he ain't a 50 Cent no more. He $1.50. People got their own opinions about that and everything. But what really jumped out at me about the whole halftime show was not the event itself. It was the feedback after the Super Bowl was over and after the halftime show was over. Well, it started during the halftime show, leading into it, and after it was over, and then through the next couple of days and everything like that. And it just surprised me. Well, let me take that word back. It didn't surprise me. But I was reading comments about how people felt, not about the performance. Well, let's start there first. The performance, people put it up there and said it was the best halftime show ever. I'm torn there. I'm not. We got to show up memory sometime. Because Michael Jackson did a halftime show that was off the chain. Prince did a halftime show that was off the chain. So we really can't get into, like I said, I don't like to do comparisons. Y'all know how I operate like that, but you can't. We got this now mentality. We don't look back. We don't see things in the past. Sometimes we get caught up in what's going on right now. But Prince and Michael Jackson, you got to put them up there as two of the best halftime shows ever. I'm just saying. That's just me. But when I seen the comments and everything, everybody got their own opinions, because a lot of people like that rap at the time when it was out and everything, the gangster rap, Snoop, Dre, all that kind of stuff. I'm cool with that. But what I'm not cool with is some of the comments about, you got criminals up there. They talked about Snoop's, alleged, convictions or lack of convictions or what he went to jail or court for and all that kind of stuff. Then they talked about Dr. Dre and his reputation of being a woman beater. And then they went on to 50 Cent about being shot 9 times. And they went into all this stuff. Then they went into Eminem. First of all, before they even got to Eminem, they said, what's up with this halftime show with no white people? I said, they didn't see Eminem up there on the stage. What is really going on here? So that just shows you some people were just looking for something to say. But Eminem took a knee. People were in uproar about that, talking about why he took a knee. Then there was controversy about whether he took a knee in honor of Kaepernick or if he took a knee because of Tupac and, to represent Tupac. It is all kinds of. My thing, just enjoy the show. It's entertainment. And we always talk about entertainment, and that's what we're there for. But they want to bring up all this other stuff because some people like the music, some people don't like the music. Some people had a problem with the beginning part of it when Jean Aiko, I think her name is, sang God Bless America. And some people had a problem with Mary singing Lift Every Voice in the beginning because they said that shouldn't be played. We heard all this stuff. But I just put this stuff out there like this. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody's either going to agree. Some people will disagree. It doesn't matter. You have an opinion. You either like it, you didn't like it. The comparisons is up to you. My thing is entertainment is part of the show. It happens every year. You're not going to agree with the person that they do the halftime show every year. But if you watch it, you watch it. That's a choice you make. But everything does not require a critique on how you feel about it on any situation, whether it's the halftime show or whether it's this show. I'm just saying it doesn't matter. But the one that really jumped out at me, Candace Owens. Yeah, that Candace Owens. And I don't like talking about her on this show often, but this really jumped out at me. OT, my brother, good morning. What's going on, my brother? Appreciate the support. What really jumped out at me about Candace Owens is she did a tweet. She's in the Twitterverse. But Candace Owens did a tweet, and in her tweet, she said that she enjoyed the halftime show. With all the rap and everything that was going on the halftime show, with everything that was negative to other folks, she said in her tweet that she enjoyed it. Now, I was shocked when I was like, we can like music and still not agree on politics and things like that. That's what we do. But it was the comments to when she posted this, she liked it, that made me realize, Candace Owens may have a standing in the community of who she tries to pander to. But once she ekes her way back to who she truly is and what kind of music she might like and listen to, boy, they went off. Whoa, they talked about her bad. I didn't even pull them up all to write them and read them and everything like that. But let me say this. And I'll put it in these terms for people to understand, because it's not just a Candace Owens thing. This is us as a community overall. OT laughing. This is us as a community overall. And I say this facetiously, but I say it because we are all aware of it. When you choose as a person of color, let me just put it that way, or a Black person, African American, whichever one term you choose to use. When you choose to pander to a certain demographic about how you feel about us as a people, and you are one of us as a people, they will gravitate to you because you're bringing out all the negative stereotypes that they believe already. And they found you to be one that is highlighting and agreeing with the fact that you agree with them about how they feel about us. Hopefully I didn't confuse nobody with that. And then what happens is, when you tend to gravitate certain times to who you truly are as a person of color, African American, or a Black person, and they see that come out of you, ooh, that's a hard battle to fight. I can name a few if you want. OJ, let's just be real. OJ, I'll stop with him because I don't want to throw out too many names, but you get what I'm saying. And what they said was, in some of the comments, I think one of the comments told her, or said to her specifically, I can't believe you enjoy that type of music when you're a Republican. I can't believe you like that type of music with the causes that you support. So just let that marinate for a minute of how they see her when she's down talking, putting down the race of people who she is to uplift her value as far as what she's trying to do monetarily on that side of the fence. And then bring it back to the fact that her just saying one tweet about how she liked the music at the Super Bowl, the halftime show, and they tore it down and looked at her like, oh, you ain't one of us. You you a wolf in sheep's clothes. We knew. Because see, here's the thing. And I laugh about this, but I'm just going to say it this way. And no, I'm going to wait because it's part of my mind, body, and soul segment. So I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait on that because it's it's in my mind, body. So we'll go back there. But I'll just say this. All the controversy around the halftime show, all the controversy around people posting how they enjoyed it, and people putting out there who's got criminal records, who don't, and everything like that. Come on, y'all. And I'm going to say it this way because we're unscripted, so we just rolling the day off top of the dome. Till certain, I got a couple of things I want to go to. But it leads me into, when we talk about criminals and things like that, boy, y'all former president is in a world of trouble. He got more cases against him. It's getting ugly. And when I say getting ugly, they're revealing, a lot of things are being revealed of what he's done, not only when he was president, but before he even decided to run for president, when everybody thought he was this great businessman. The cases that they have against him, whether it be civil, or when he's doing his taxes and fraud and all this kind of stuff, as well as the documentation I talked about last week with the secret and the archives came out and said that there was classified information in those boxes and so on and so forth, and all these different things going on. Donald Trump and his family, who have been doing these things for years and years and years. As Malcolm X said, and I've said it before on here, the chickens have come home to roost when it comes to them finding out. And here's the key. We're finding out these things that some of us already had suspicions of. Let's just be real. However, now that we're finding out, the question is not what we know, but what are they going to charge him with? Are they going to charge him? How are they going to charge him? Because here's my thing, and I said this before and I'll say it again. The position you hold in this United States of America, whether you're president or just little old me, and I understand the fact that if you can afford certain lawyers that are able to fight and plea deal and do whatever they got to do to try to get you off from what they know you've done, But there comes a time where we got to step back for a minute, and people who always say that there is no systemic racism, there's no racism in the systems and things like that, I want you to pay close attention to how this all goes down with the former president. Because most of these crimes that he's being charged with were done before he was president. So why should he have any type of alienation of these crimes or have some type of executive privilege or anything from those crimes that he's being looked at for fraud and everything with his organization, if all these things were done before he became president? I want y'all to pay close attention to this, because this is where the water gets a little muddy, and they try to convolute it by protecting him and his family, in spite of the fact that all and most of these things were done. We know what he did when he was president, but all these things that are being exposed now of what he was doing as a quote unquote businessman are coming to the forefront now. James Battle, good morning, my brother. Appreciate the support. Are coming to the forefront. So my thing is, when people watch this, see how it's all going to turn out. When we talk about different things and how the system, the judicial system, and in all those different systems we talk about have racism implanted in them, I want you to pay attention on how this is handled. Not because it's Donald Trump, not because he's a former president, but because of what he looks like. And I've said it before, the complexion for the protection, as far as what they will hold him accountable for and what they let slide through the cracks. Pay attention. Pay close attention. Lady Michelle, good morning. Good morning. Appreciate the support. Pay close attention to how this is going to turn out. Because all these things, as I said, a lot of these things were done way, way before he became president. And that privilege that they talk about, that executive privilege, or what can cover and what they can't cover and all that, should not even make a dent in them holding him accountable for what that business was doing and what he was doing, what he knew, what he tries to act like he didn't know, all those things included. All those things included. And then I read an article not too long ago, and I forgot to bring this up. Deborah Harris, good morning. Appreciate support. Read an article not too long ago that Donald Trump, before he left office, while he was president, he had the intent to do a blanket, what do they call it? What do they call it? Pardon. A blanket pardon for his children before he left office. Let that marinate for a minute. He wanted to do a blanket pardon for his children before he left office. What does that tell you? Now, from what we know, while he was in office and his children were working with him and things like that, what did we know that them being charged for or having some type of nefarious activity that would cause you, as the president, because of the power you have at the time, to do a blanket pardon for charges that have never even been brought to the forefront, unless you already knew that the chickens were coming home to roost. Not because of what you did in office, but because of what y'all were doing with your business. That's where it gets a little murky for me. See, a lot of people didn't hear about that. If you did hear about it, it's been so long ago, you may have forgotten. But he was trying to do a blanket pardon for his family members, for his children. So what does that tell you? They already knew. When Letitia James, the Attorney General in New York, started this investigation, they already knew. When they got Alan Wasserman, I think, who was his attorney and everything, or his CFO or whatever, when they started questioning him and pulling him in and charged him, they knew. They knew. And right now, they're trying to circle the wagons, as they say, to try to prevent any of them from being held accountable in any way. Don't be surprised if you don't start hearing about some type of pleas, some kind of plea deals. And now this week, we heard that him and Donald Trump Jr. and Ivanka Trump have to testify in front of the grand jury about all these charges in New York. Eric Trump supposedly already did. And the big controversy is, if he pleads the fifth, if Donald Trump and his family pleads the fifth, what does that say? If they plead the fifth, what does that say? And if they answer the questions, what are we going to find out? Stay tuned. Stay tuned, because what you have is you have an attorney general up there that's not playing. And then you have the guy that took over Cyrus Vance's place up there also, who's doing the civil charges. I think it is that I can't remember what his name is or anything in New York, but there's 2 cases in New York, and they're not similar at all. They deal with the same things, but there's a certain way they're dealing with them. One is punitive and one is civil. One deals with money, one deals with jail time. Let's watch. Let's just sit back and watch. See what happens with this. Let's see what happens with the classified documents, as I mentioned last week, because now that the Records Association or whatever it is has come out and said that they had classified material and he was flushing more than just documents and all this kind of stuff. Let's just see how this goes. Let's see how this goes. Voting. Now we got this is 2022, so November we got midterm elections coming up. In Texas already is having issues with their mail-in ballots. I can't remember the number because I like today as Unscripted. I'm just going off the top of my dome. You can go back and read about it, but there was 100. I think they say there was 100 maybe 100,000, maybe. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to quote the number, but the mail-in ballots that were sent in for people to register to be able to do mail-in ballots, they're being turned away. They're saying that they didn't provide all the information. Now, mind you, they changed the way they do this in Texas. This is one example. They changed the way they do it with this gerrymandering and all this thing and trying to prevent people from voting and everything like that. But what they did was they changed the way that you had to fill this out. They added some boxes, took some boxes away. So you know we're creatures of habit. We fill them out the way we've always filled them out. But what they're finding out is now that they're being turned in, that people aren't checking certain boxes, people are providing certain information and everything like that. And now those mail-in ballot registration are being denied. So with that being said, with them being denied, they may not be eligible to vote in the midterm elections because their registration is not being filled out in the correct way. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? And now, mind you, this is not a Democrat or Republican thing when it comes to the people going to vote. You're trying to vote, you're trying to register who you are, whatever party you're affiliated with. But those are the Republicans that are being sent, that their things are being sent back or they're being kicked out. What you need to be aware of, they're your people that you're voting for or that you voted in office before as a Republican that are doing this. And if you're not paying attention to it, you're going to be one of those ones that votes and that wants to vote and your vote won't count. It won't matter. It'll just be a blip on the screen because they're going to throw it out. Terrence Collins, good morning, my brother. Good morning. Appreciate support. So Texas right now is where one of the issues lie. And it's not going to get better before it gets worse. We got to pay attention to that. It's Texas now. It'll be Maryland tomorrow, Georgia next week. You know, all these different states that they're doing all these changes to the way you go and vote at the polls and how they're doing the mail-in ballots and all this kind of stuff. All of these things are all intertwined with the gerrymandering, with the just put it into simple terms. All of this stuff plays into the part of power and control. Trying to have power and control over all the processes going forward. That's exactly what it is. No other way to put it. No other way to put it. It's just what it is. And we need to pay more attention to it and understand that if it's happening in Texas, it's going to happen in these other states where they've made all these changes to the rules. Just be aware. Just be aware. Yesterday, I want to say it was yesterday. Nanette Naylor, good morning, classmate. Good morning. Appreciate the support. Yes, you are right. Yeah, it's spreading. And we gotta do our due diligence to make sure. And here's the thing. In Texas is going on right now where they're looking for these little small missteps of how people are filling this paperwork out. If we already know that this is what they're trying to do, we need to pay more attention to what's being sent, what they're asking for, and make sure we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's. That's what it comes down to. You know, you can't always fight the system to change it, but you can be the change within the system, because if they can't find the flaws that they think or expect to happen, and we're taking care of all those things in the front end, what can they do on the back end? You know, they'll try. I mean, case in point, they tried to send fake electors up there to try to put Donald Trump in office when he didn't even win. Pay attention. Pay attention. Now, you heard me earlier talking about the judicial system. Yesterday, Minnesota police officer, I don't even remember what her name, Kim Potter, was sentenced to 2 years in jail for the murder. And I'm just going to say the murder. And I can't remember the young man's name. Dante Wright. I'm sorry. Dante Wright. For the murder of Dante Wright, where she said, and everybody remembers the story where she said she was reaching for her taser. She thought she had a taser. She shot him with her gun. But now she's finally been sentenced. I'm not going to get into all the, she was up there crying when she talked to the family, saying she was apologizing, saying she was sorry and all that. I'm not going to get into that. I don't know her heart. I don't know where she's at. I know what she did, though. Let's start there. I know what she did, but I don't know her heart. And I will always say that because I don't know a person's heart unless I truly know that person. And then, even then, you really don't know. So I'm not going to accuse her that she did do what she did, that she did it intentionally. She didn't do it intentionally, but she did it. Let's start there. She did it. And this is one person who is a trainer of other police officers in Minnesota. Okay. But she shot him, killed him. She was up on, let me pull this up here because these are some of the notes that I wrote down. She was facing 16, wait a minute, no. She ended up getting sentenced to 2 years. But in Minnesota, you only have to do 2/3 of your sentence, which means she'll do 16 months, according to state law. With good behavior, she'll be eligible for supervised release for the remaining third of her sentence. Judge Regina Chu called the sentence an extremely difficult decision. In justifying it, she pointed to several mitigating factors, saying it was undisputed that Potter never intended to use her gun. How does she know that? Chu told the court she took into account the 4 reasons for incarceration: retribution, incapacitation, deterrence, and rehabilitation. Y'all hear me talk about that a lot, rehabilitation. Saying retribution would be the only purpose served in Potter's case. Do you hear what let me read that again for you so you hear exactly what this judge said when we talk about the judicial system and how certain things are done for certain people at certain times. There's a certain compassion that's shown for certain people, no matter what the crime they've committed. Chu told the court she took into account the 4 reasons for incarceration. Now, this is the 4 reasons across the board about incarceration: retribution, incapacitation, deterrence, and rehabilitation. And she says that retribution would be the only purpose served in Miss Potter's case. I'm going to go back to something that I've talked about on this show many, many times. And I want you to take what this judge said into account. On this show, I've said many times, and I've showed you many examples of African-American men being sentenced to 40 and 50 years for a crime they didn't commit, where evidence has been tainted, not presented, people lied, no accountability for the people that lied, that put that person in jail for the 40 or 50 years, where the judge at the time threw the book at them. And I want to ask this question: did that judge that threw the book at these people who never committed the crime but went by the evidence that was presented by these, district attorneys or the prosecuting attorney or whatever, did they take into fact the retribution? Did they take into fact the incapacitation, deterrence, or rehabilitation? See, this is where, when we talk about the justice system, we get upset. And just talking about this right now, I know my voice is getting a little loud. I'm sorry. But these are the things that we see that causes us to pause and say, wait a minute. I understand she was in her line of duty doing her job. I'm cool with that. I understand that she said that she was reaching for her taser and she ended up shooting him with her gun. Okay. But what is the accountability for her not doing her job in the way she was trained and trains other folks to do their job? They're supposed to de-escalate the situation. Whether she grabbed it by mistake or not, she killed Dante Wright. And for her to only get 2 years, you can equate it to her being a police officer, is why they had this compassion for her. Or you can take into account that she's a white female. However you want to look at it, it still doesn't pass the smell test. It still doesn't pass the water being muddy. As far as why? Because if you remember, the initial thing they said was he got pulled over because he had an air freshener hanging from his mirror. Then it was he had a tail light out. And then he's dead. And for her to get up there crying to the family, trying to justify that she didn't mean anything and everything, like I said, I'm not going to judge her heart. But you knew going into the job that you chose for all the years you had been in there, because you're the one that's training other folks how to respond to things, how to handle the weapons, all the training that you do, and you are taught over time. You're the one that pulled the wrong gun. Not the taser, but the revolver. You're the one. And then when we say Black Lives Matter, people get upset. But for this person to get 2 years for killing a black man who is just only pulled over for a traffic stop, and for her only get 2 years, do black lives really matter in these situations? Do they? James Battle, there's a black female Army captain here at Fort Hood that was sentenced to 40 years yesterday. Shot a boyfriend. He didn't die. I'm going to have to pull that up and read up on that. Thank you, brother. That's one of many. It's one of many. You remember Centoya Brown? And I always go back to Centoya Brown. Remember Centoya Brown, who killed the man who was holding her hostage and abducting her and abusing her and sexually abusing her and everything for all those years. And then when she killed him and they knew she had been kidnapped or raped and all these things, she was still given a life sentence. It took appeal after appeal after appeal for them to finally let her off, and they didn't want to let her off then. And the fact of it is they weren't letting her off. They were finally doing what the justice system is supposed to do. After all those years, the men of color, women of color have served sentences for something they did not do. And then something that we seen with our own eyes on camera, not being held accountable to the full extent of what they could. She was looking at up to 7 years, if I recall. So this is like a slap on the wrist. Trim Brands, Dante's life was not valued. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Not at all. Not at all. And then the other thing, let me get to some of these comments. I'm sorry. Deborah Harris, no accountability and no justice. Renique Nickel. Hey, sis. I'll be messing your name up every week. I'm sorry. Vernique, that's all I'm going to call you from now on. Vernique, my sister, what's going on? Appreciate the support. But the other problem I had, and I don't know if anybody watched the judge when she was finally doing the sentencing and coming out and saying what her justification was behind what she did and why she was sentencing her only to 2 years. Watch this now. She compared the George Floyd incident to this. That it wasn't a cop with a knee on the neck of an individual for the amount of time, she said the amount of time, I don't remember. But she said this was not something to that extent, which was some of her justification on why she only gave her 2 years. Let that marinate for a minute now. Now we're taking the crime that a police officer does and comparing it to a crime that another police officer does to justify why we're not giving this police officer the same amount of time we gave that police officer, even though both people in those incidents died. What's going on here? What's going on here? So now we have judges looking at what police officers do and are being charged for and doing comparisons and judging what type of sentence we're going to give this police officer compared to what we gave that police officer, because the extent of what they did was not, come on. Every sentence that we hear, and I keep going back to the ones that end up going to jail for crimes they didn't commit, but every sentence that we have talked about on this show and that has been in the news about people and men and women of color being sentenced to the full extent of whatever they can charge them with, being put in jail, and then find out years later that the evidence wasn't there, they didn't commit the crime, but the judge also still gave them the full extent of what they could give them. And now we hear this. Don't anyone ever tell me that there's no racism in our systems. Don't part your lips to tell me that critical race theory is not something that should be talked about. When you see things like this, you should be upset. Whether you're a person of color, whether you're white, just as an American citizen who thinks or feels that the justice system and all the systems in this United States pertain to everybody on an equal playing field. Shut it up. Trent Brands, utterly, ridiculous. It's a shame that I'm not surprised at the sentence. I'm not surprised. But I'm upset. I seen the writing on the wall. I didn't see the writing to be the point where she was going to bring up the George Floyd conviction. Let me get that right. The Derek Chauvin conviction. I didn't see that coming. Now, we've had some judges get up on there and because they sit up high, as they say, do whatever they want to do. This just shows you, if they're doing it at this level, these courts, what are they doing at the Supreme Court right now? What dichotomy is about to shift in the Supreme Court? Why do you think they're so hell-bent on not having an African-American Black woman on the Supreme Court? Because then you have to judge accordingly, equally, as far as how you look at cases. But if you don't have somebody up there that looks like some of those who are being held accountable, you don't even have to pay attention to it. Deborah Harris. I met a young man this week sentenced for I met a young man this week sentenced for 106 years for a murder he did not commit. He was released after 3 years. Deborah Harris. Thank you. 106 years. 106 years. And I guarantee that 106 years came out to the point of being concurrently, not consecutively. Because if it came out to 106 years, he probably got charged for 25 here and 30 years on this and 50 years on that. And they all, sometimes you'll hear them say they're supposed to be run concurrently, which means if you get 30 years and you get a sentence for 15 years, that 15 years is included in that 30 years. But when they say consecutively, that means you got to do all 45. You feel me? I think I said that right. I don't know, y'all. The way it works bothers me. But the way people choose to be blind to the fact of what happened and blind to the fact of how these systems work for some and prosecute to the full extent to others. And people will sit back and say there is no problems, no racism in our systems and things like that, or there is no racism at all. Hell, all you had to do is look at some of the comments about the daggone halftime show at the Super Bowl. That'll tell you there's racism. And here's the funny thing. This is the funny thing to me. And I thought about this the other day, and I'm bringing it up right now. It's funny to me how all these people can have these opinions about the halftime show, the music that was played, who was performing, and the overall factor of there was no white people involved in the halftime show other than Eminem is what they said. And they didn't even acknowledge him as being white. Let's just be real. But I want you to think about something when I say this. They were upset about the halftime show not having enough white folks in it or not having any white folks in it. But if you watch the game, most of the players on the field are black. So if you had a problem with the halftime show, you should have had a problem with the whole damn game. But because, let's just be real, because the two head coaches weren't black, because the quarterback, you see where I'm going. I'm not going to dig too far down in that hole, but you see where I'm going. That just shows you the ignorance of when people want to pinpoint certain things without looking at the bigger picture of everything. Racism is alive and well, y'all. And anybody that wants to try to put their head in the sand and act like it's not, you're part of the problem. You're part of the problem. Pensacola Police Department said it's launched an internal affairs investigation after parents say a child was hurt while in police custody following last week's police-involved shooting. It happened after Pensacola police SWAT officers executed a search warrant last Thursday morning at a home on North 7th Avenue. How many times have we heard about this? But this one really gets me. Channel 3 has reported extensively how 24-year-old Corey, I don't want to pronounce his name, Marino Jr., has been charged for shooting at one of the SWAT officers after they rammed his door. One of these warrants again. Marino Jr.'s two young children, ages 1 and 3, were inside the home at the time. The family argues Marino Jr. shot at the officers because he feared they were intruders. Channel 3 sat down with the kid's mother, Moya Dixon, on Wednesday. I was woken up by a phone call, said Miss Dixon, who co-parents with Mr. Marino. At 5 a.m. last Thursday, the children, Kayon and Kylan, were asleep with their dad at the North 7th Avenue home. Dixon says she was asleep at her own home. Receiving the alarming phone call, family told her what they knew among the info relayed that was that her 1-year-old was injured in this raid or in this thing. Make a long story short, I'm not going to get into all of this. They kicked the door in of Mr. Marino's house. He had his 1-year-old and his 3-year-old child there. They kicked the door in. Mr. Marino grabbed his gun, shot one of the SWAT officers. Things cleared up a little bit. So now they arrest him and they got to do something with the children. It's alleged. This is where I'm worried about this one like I was this last one that just happened. This is what Mrs. Dixon said. I got out of my car like, where's my baby? Now, mind you, they already arrested the husband. They got him, the boyfriend, whatever it is. He's handcuffed, whatever. Now you got the 2 kids to think about. Where's my baby? Dixon said. And I get my baby and I see his face. And it's almost unrecognizable compared to how he looked when I left him last night. A picture shows the 1-year-old's nose and lips swollen. A scrape on his lip, scratches on his nose, and several bumps on his forehead. Dixon's first thought, who did this? On Monday, the Pensacola Police Department sent Channel 3 a statement on the child's injuries. The department claims both kids were in the backseat of a car with an investigator. The investigator got out of the car. Upon returning, Pensacola police say the investigator didn't notice the child leaning on the door. When the investigator opened it, police say the child fell out of the car. Jack in the days, no knock warrants should be illegal, period. Yes, they should. And if you notice, they're only done in our neighborhoods, but I'm going to keep moving on that. Thank you very much. So supposedly the child was leaning on the door when the person opened the door and the child fell out the car, causing these injuries. Let me give you them injuries again. What it had, what she said when she first got there. The child had nose and lip swollen, scrape on his lip, scratches on his nose, several bumps on his forehead. The child was checked by EMS for injuries. Both children were later released to family members. Pensacola police goes on to say in its statement, Escambia County tells Channel 3 the EMS was called out at 6:40 a.m. for hemorrhage and laceration on a toddler. Hemorrhage and laceration. They arrived 6 minutes later. The county couldn't specify what EMS saw and said, but it claims the call was canceled 20 minutes later. The toddler was not taken to the hospital by EMS, so Dixon took him herself. Now, mind you, EMS came out. They never took the child to the 1-year-old now, 1-year-old, supposedly fell out of the car. If you have a 1-year-old in your home and they fall, hit their head or anything like that, you're going to take them to the hospital. That's just a reaction that we do as parents. But if you don't give a damn, you don't do that. So Miss Dixon took the child herself to the hospital. Dozens of pages of paperwork from the hospital document the child's injuries after the CAT scans and x-rays. Dixon claims the Florida Department of Children and Families is investigating. DCF has not yet confirmed this with Channel 3. Channel 3 asked Dixon on Wednesday what she would say to the Pensacola Police Department. She said, "How could you?" The department said they couldn't answer them because it has launched an internal affairs investigation. Additionally, Pensacola Police called off Channel 3's scheduled interview with Chief Eric Randall that was set for Friday. Chief Randall met with Dixon in person right after Channel 3's interview and had a conversation with her, according to police. Dixon says he apologized and promised to investigate what happened. It's been very disturbing and overwhelming not knowing the truth of what happened to my 1-year-old son, Miss Dixon said. My 3-year-old is traumatized, she added. He keeps having to tell the story of what his 3-year-old brain can comprehend of what happened to his brother. That is horrifying. So not only did you injure one child, the second child is going to have PTSD. I don't care what nobody thinks. Mr. Marino, the man who shot the other SWAT officer, is facing an attempted murder of a law enforcement officer. And then he also lost his job because of it. On top of all his charges, they hurt his baby. Mr. Marino doesn't have a criminal record. And then Pensacola police say he is not a suspect in the January shooting investigation that led the police to his home. So they went to his home investigating a shooting, but he wasn't a suspect. But because you kicked my door in and I shot you coming in my door, now I'm being held accountable for attempted murder on a police officer when you were in the wrong place. You came to my house. See this trend going on here? Now they want to know what led police to the house and how did their baby boy end up injured in police custody. Y'all get the picture. Y'all get the picture. And let me just say this. We all, at this point in our lives, probably have children or have had children. Probably got grandchildren by now, you know. I want to go out on a limb and say, if someone hurt your child, police officer or not, there's going to be hell to pay. You want justice. If your child is in a daycare and comes home with a scratch, you want to know what the hell happened. Trent Branch canceled the press conference because they don't want to answer the obvious questions that were coming. Exactly. Now, there's speculation that allegedly the child didn't fall out of the car. Allegedly, the police officer dropped the child on the way to the car. I'm telling you what I read. Telling you what I read. But nobody wants to fess up to that. A mistake is a mistake until you start lying about it, which then makes an intent. What was the intent of what happened? See, we can all deal with a mistake. We can all look past something that just happened by accident. When you start lying about the accident, now I have to understand what your intent was from the beginning of what happened that you want to call an accident. Just me. Just me. Police officers. You know, when they always sit around, they talk about, oh, that's just a few bad apples. But damn, where are the good apples at? Where are the good apples? Because any of us that go to the store, we like our fruit. You know, you go in the fruit section, the produce section, and everything, and there may be some bad stuff on top. You're digging through, you're looking for the fresh. You're looking for something unblemished. You're looking for the good looking fruit. You may have to dig down in there because they always put the bad stuff on top anyway, or just because everybody's handled it. But eventually, after you get past that bad fruit, you find the good fruit somewhere in the mix. And that's what you choose to take. Tastes juicy. It's good for you. You enjoy that juice running down side of your mouth when you bite into it. You know what I'm saying? But when we talk about these bad apples, where are good apples at? What happened to all the good damn apples? Because if you're going to tell me that's just a few bad apples, then what you're telling me is the whole department is bad apples. We're just catching a few when these things come up. Because if you got that many bad apples and you're telling me you got good apples, then the good apples are bad until they get caught, aren't bad until they get caught. That's basically what you're telling me. Everybody's a good apple till they get caught. Then they become a bad apple. I think it's the opposite. I think y'all got a whole bunch of damn bad apples. And only good apples are the ones that have already retired because they ain't on the payroll no more. As far as every day. Body cams should show a lot. We'll never see it. We'll never see it. Unless somebody does a Freedom of Information Act and goes after it and tells them they want to see the stuff. It's just crazy. Absolutely. Somehow they're always conveniently turned off, unfortunately. Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just something to sit back and think about and you know, we shouldn't dwell on it, but we should be aware of it, as I always say. But it's just something that just doesn't. Then there's Republican senators transition. Republican senators that don't want people who are on these aircraft causing problems because they don't want to wear a mask and anything like that. The transportation, federal aviation wants to put them on the watch list, the no travel list, because they're causing problems in the air because they don't want to wear a mask. Republicans are fighting against it, saying they shouldn't be held accountable as terrorists. Time out. If they get on a plane knowing what the rules are and they cause a disturbance, guess what they should be identified at? They ain't no different than a terrorist on that plane that decides he wants to take the plane down. I'm sorry. When you look at the big picture, you know what the FAA rules are when you get ready to get on a plane. They're written on your ticket. They're written on your, when you book the ticket, everything's there on what you do, what you need to do, and how you need to handle yourself on that flight. If you choose not to do it, if after 9/11, everything we know to be true, everything has been geared around safety of the passengers on the flight as well as the crew. And if you don't want to act a damn fool because you don't want to wear a mask or you get to fighting on there, ban them. Don't let them back on a flight for years. No fly list. Put them on it because they were quick to put anybody who was Muslim on a no-fly list because of what some chose to do. But now the Republicans want to speak up because these are their constituents who don't feel they need to wear a mask and causing an uproar where planes got to turn around and go back to the gate. And I think they should charge all of them the fuel cost for them to get in that air and have to go back to the gate because they want to act a damn fool. In conjunction with putting them on a no-fly list. James Battle, what about the black DC cop that was associated with the Proud Boys and communicating with them on January 6th? Same thing. Bad apple? Good apple? Yeah, I like pears myself. Just saying. Just saying. Regulations are for everyone. You don't get to choose, and you don't get to choose. So they should be held accountable to the full extent, just like anybody else. Because here, I'll go back again. If you look at the people who have been put off these planes or who they've had to turn planes around for, who don't want to wear a mask. Now, let me clear this up. I got some people that look like me to get on the plane, and we usually get turned around, or we only take off because we on there fighting about something or whatever. They put us off right then and there. Don't want to pull your pants up, all that. I'm cool with that. But when that plane taxis and takes off from that runway, and they got to turn around because you acting a damn fool, accountable. Hold them accountable. Hold them accountable. They should be banned and fined. Done. Should be no gray area to it. Should be no gray area to it. But the Republicans are fighting for their constituents because they don't want them to be banned from flying, even though they know they acted a damn fool. We're gonna go a little longer today, but because I got a mind, body, and soul coming. But I got this other one. I have to talk about this one. In Kansas City, ninth graders were on a school bus headed to a football game last fall when one of them, who had been bantering with a black student about jobs and slaves, drafted a petition on change.org titled "Start Slavery Again." Let me read that headline one more time now. Ninth graders were on a school bus headed to a football game last fall when one of them, who had been bantering with a black student about jobs and slaves, drafted a petition on change.org titled "Start Slavery Again." The student later shared the petition with the football team's Snapchat group, some of whom liked the petition. You know, they clicked that like button. You know, these are y'all's children out there. They clicked the like button. One of them commented on the petition saying, "I love slavery." Another commented, "I hate blacks." And a third commented, "I want a slave." The word soon spread, and other non-racist students reported the petition to the school administrators. During the internal investigation, the students admitted they created the petition, but tried to dismiss it as a joke. These kids clearly felt comfortable enough to verbally joke about blacks as slaves, but that wasn't enough to create a hateful petition, which was then positively commented on and would have undoubtedly grown more divisive in its popularity. Speaks to how common those beliefs are and how comfortable white Americans are with sharing them. As a result of the investigation, there was one expulsion and 3 180-day suspensions. Yet that was only the beginning. Following the suspension, the students filed suit claiming their First Amendment and due process rights were violated. The suit argues that racial slurs were common practice at Park Hill South, most often in friendly bantering, and that one of the black students instigated the incident, but he was never disciplined. Friendly bantering rarely ends up in court, yet the effort to minimize their own involvement persisted. They said it was only youthful bad judgment is why they did this. Yeah. What the what? Two of y'all back to back. What the what? What the what? Exactly. What the what? Let me continue. These students and their parents would rather litigate and even blame a black person rather than accept accountability. They employ the same GOP tactic which deflects and bans black books about black experience rather than acknowledge their direct contribution to systemic racism. Even still, a Missouri federal judge has declined to rescind the expulsion. So they're gonna keep them expelled, and whatever the punishment was. This goes back to what I talked about last week with the N-word. Now, listen before you get in the uproar, because I know these were white children involved in this. But if you see, they kept resorting back to the one African-American that was going back and forth with them. So my question would be, and I'm not trying to hold a young black man accountable, but what I'm trying to get you to recognize is the fact that words have power and people get comfortable when you use those words with them jokingly. I don't know what was said. We'll never know what was truly said. But when we talk about the N-word, it goes back to what I was talking about. These kids didn't just do this yesterday or the day they got caught. This is something that they continually doing, that they continue to do because it's acceptable in that area. It's acceptable to their parents. Otherwise, their parents wouldn't be fighting so hard to try to get them unexpelled for something they did. I know when I did things in school and my mother had to come get out because I got thrown out of class, guess what I had to do? I had to deal with the consequences. She defended me to the point of I need to be better, but she did not defend me for the foolishness that I was doing. If I got in trouble, I had to deal with the consequences. Not only what they did in me in school, but what that belt was going to do to me at home. Just saying, there's consequences. The number of reported hate crimes nationwide against Black people sharply increased in 2020, according to FBI data. Though these numbers may spike at times, hate crimes against Black people have always been persistent since slavery. In 2020, there were 2,755 reported incidents targeting Black or African-American people in the United States. That's a nearly 40% spike from 2019, making Black folks the most targeted racial group by a wide margin per FBI. Now, you heard what I said there, right? There's a nearly 40% spike from 2019, making Black folks the most targeted racial group by a wide margin per FBI. Now, these are hate crimes. But if y'all remember back in one of my shows, I talked about it. There is no Black African-American hate crime bill, but you got an Asian hate crime bill. Remember that? And we talked about that. So you got a hate crime bill for Asians because of COVID, what was going on with COVID, but we had a 40% spike since 2019 of hate crimes toward African Americans, and you have no legislation. And you got children talking about, I wish I had a slave. I want a slave. I want a slave. I love slavery. I hate Blacks. And this all correlates into the point of why they don't want to teach the truth about the 1619 Project and all the other things that have gone on in this country. Because if you listen to what they're saying, they don't want their kids held accountable for things that have gone on in the past, but you're justifying the shit that they're doing here right now by saying they want slaves because they're ignorant to what it was all about because of what their ancestors did. They don't want them to be held accountable for, but they're not even being held accountable for what they're doing right now. And people get upset because they're supposedly teaching critical race theory, or we don't need to know about the 1619 Project, but you got white children out here that you don't want to feel like they're being looked at differently because they're white and that their skin color has caused this and that, and they're the cause of racism, but they're exuding it from their own actions, not only because of how they look, but because of what they know. And you can't tell me they don't know how bad slavery was, because I guarantee they ain't walking around talking about, I wish I had a Jew. I like the Holocaust. We ain't seen no reports on that. And if you did, I guarantee the actions would have been swifter. The people would have been in an uproar. And you would have had some type of legislation that quick if it was true. I don't know, y'all. I don't know what to tell you. But this is what's going on in the world. This is what's going on in the world. You need to stay grounded in your faith, but don't be blind to what's going on around you. Be aware, but don't be consumed. Trent Branch, Governor of Virginia, executive order to stop CRT from being taught in schools. Yeah, they've been doing, and you know, the thing about it, if they really look at the big picture, if they're honest, let me not look at the big picture, but if these politicians and these people who are hell-bent against critical race theory would step back for a minute and really look at the curriculum in all schools throughout the United States of America, K through 12. Critical race theory is nowhere in the lesson plans. Nowhere. It's a college-taught course. What they're doing is they're bleeding critical race theory into Black history that is taught at the K through 12 level. By doing that, they're giving themselves fuel for the fire to try to eliminate everything about us in history and minimize it to the point like it never happened. They don't understand. They don't care what it really is. You're right. They don't care what it really is. Because anybody out there, and I'll say this, under most circumstances, before you stand up and are upset and choose to go against something, you choose to get the history about something. You don't just wake up tomorrow and say, we shouldn't be teaching critical race theory. And then when you ask them, well, what's it about? And they can't tell you. That tells you everything you need to know. When these people get on these interviews and these talk shows and they stand up in front of these, town halls or these school administrators, anything like that, they have no clue what critical race theory is about. They have no clue how it was created. They have no clue what it represents. And they have no clue because they don't care to know. All they know is the fact that critical race theory says, in a simplistic way, that critical race theory shows how the systems of this country have affected the growth of African Americans in this country. That's the simple part of it. But if you don't want to know the full in-depth part of it, why it's written, why it's taught, what it's written on and what it's based on and where the facts lie within the theory, you don't want to know. You don't want to know. And they don't want to know because, as they always say, the truth hurts. The truth hurts. And I guarantee, if critical race theory was taught in K through 12, those kids we just talked about on that football team that said they love slavery, they love it, wouldn't have parted their lips to say it. Because they would have had a better understanding of what they were doing when they chose to do the ignorant thing that they just did by saying they want a slave. But people are more hell-bent. People are more hell-bent about what Whoopi Goldberg said about the Holocaust and what it was about than they are about trying to minimize the impact of slavery and everything that goes on in this country when it deals with the systems. Think about that for a minute. Everyone was in an uproar about what Whoopi Goldberg said and how she phrased what she felt about the Holocaust was not racist. It was more about a religion and everything like that. Some people have that opinion, but they're so hell-bent on what she said and who said it about the Holocaust than they are about getting to the truth about what this lack of information or misrepresentation of what critical race theory is. That's where the difference lies. We put more energy into understanding certain things and hope that other things would just go away. And as I started off the show, I haven't seen a whole lot of things going on about Black History Month this year. Some of it could be caused by the pandemic, but at the same time, if we're not going to celebrate us, we can't expect somebody else to do it for us. If we're not going to celebrate us, we can't expect someone else to do it for us. If we're not going to get out here and yell from the rooftops about what critical race theory is and what the 1619 Project is all about, we can't expect someone else to do it. We have to be the ones to do it. We have to be the ones to instill in our children. We need to be the ones to educate our children. We can't expect everyone else to do what we have the ability to do at this time. I want you to think about something, and then we're going to transition to the mind, body, and soul. Learning to read and write was a death sentence during slavery. Learning to read and write was a death sentence during slavery. And they still chose to find a way to learn how to read and learn how to write. And they did this not only for themselves, but to benefit us. Because we take it for granted that we could get our books and go to school. You can take it all the way up to the point of we went to school mixed, desegregated, because of the ones that walked before us, being rocks thrown at them and things like that. Those are the people that laid the groundwork, and we've gotten so comfortable that we tend to forget the history of how we got here. You know, they always say as a people, if you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you're going. We got to be the ones to scream loudly about our history. We need to be the ones to stand firm on what the critical race theory is about, what the 1619 Project's about, what everything and anybody who was before us, to include Martin Luther King and all those that marched with him. See, we concentrate on the one, but there was many. And we got to be the ones. We have to be the ones to continue with the path that our ancestors started. We've come to a point where we got to a fence, and rather than go over the fence, we stop. They went through the fence. They went over the fence. They went under the fence. Don't let me talk about Harriet Tubman on here. They found a way out of no way to continue going. And what we've done is we've gotten comfortable with where we're at, not realizing that we still got a ways to go because we're comfortable with our 6-figure job, our BMW in the driveway, our 3,000 square foot home. We've gotten comfortable with where we are, but we got to get uncomfortable with the fact of what they're changing our narrative to be and where we've come from and who we are. See, we're glad to sit back and watch the Super Bowl and watch the halftime show and see Black excellence up on the stage and them highlighting us, but that's entertainment. That's entertainment. We're not entertainers. We're more than entertainers. We're a people, a proud people. And until we get to the point where we understand that we got to stand on the backs of those that came before us to keep moving, this shit is going to keep happening. Your kids and your grandkids are going to deal with the stuff going on with that school bus in Kansas City. The child being dropped by a police officer and not being held accountable. The child being shot in his car over a traffic stop by a police officer who said that they was reaching for a taser rather than a gun. Did it take all of that? Alicia Laura, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. Truth be told, Americans know the truth that the Black race is equally capable to thrive in this world. Yes, we are. They know it. We know it. But we're not doing it. We're not doing it. Jerry Page, come on, Malcolm. No, not Malcolm, brother. Not Malcolm. I appreciate the compliment, though, if you feel that way. I just get passionate about this because we got to get to a point where we understand our worth, not only as individuals, but as a people. I think we've lost focus of that. You know, I'm Black and I'm proud. What happened to that? You know, I've gotten out of the projects and now I'm in the suburbs, and I left in the projects everything about me because now I'm in the suburbs. I don't relate to that anymore. What happened? Complacent and comfortable. Comfortable with our individual or personal status. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. We got to get there. We got to get there. And we can't do it. I mean, it only takes one of us to start, but it takes all of us to join in and do what we have to do. We got to come together and fight these things. We can't. And here's the other thing, and I'm going to leave it at that. I know I went off on a tangent, but y'all bear with me. We got to get out of the habit of when we have people that look like us, that we have a difference of opinion about. And I've said this many times, but I'm going to say it again because it's relevant right now. When we have a difference of opinion of somebody who looks like us, or Candace Owens, or Judge Thomas, Clarence Thomas, some of us have people that we associate that have that mentality. We got to get past the point of just calling them Uncle Tom and listen to what their mindset is to get a better understanding why they feel the way they feel. Not just cast them to the side. Why do they feel that way? What experience have they had in their life that causes them to see differently than what you may see? Because here's the thing. We tend to talk to everybody who has the like mind of us, exactly how we feel and what we see. But when are we going to cross over and talk to those other people that look like us on the other side who may have a different opinion on how they see politics and try to come to some happy medium rather than come up with this Uncle Tom or sellout and all this kind of stuff? Because here's the thing. I say this, some will agree and some won't. The Candace Owenses of the world, the Judge Clarence Thomases of the world. Think about this for a minute. And I'm not giving them a pass for some of the ignorant stuff they say. But I just want you to take this into account. By them having the opinion that they have, and them being on that side of the aisle for how they feel things go, do you not think they're fighting two battles at the same time? They're trying to fit in over there, but they're still not trying to lose focus of who they are. But we don't give them an opportunity for them to even get involved in who they are, because we've casted them out because of what ideology they may have because they sit on that side. Acceptance of different opinions is how we move forward. And when I say acceptance, I'm not saying accepting to the point where you have to agree, but accepting to the fact that they have this opinion because that's what they believe. And this is what I believe. But we got to come to some type of happy medium, because we're going to have many, many more people that look like me going to the Republican side because they're always about the bottom line and the dollar. That's what they call a conservative. Martin Luther King Jr. was conservative. A lot of people don't realize that. But because of what he was standing up for, they got pushed to the side. Let that marinate. Let that marinate. We got to be more accepting of people who have different opinions and try to come to some type of happy medium. I'm not saying everybody's going to agree with you. I'm not saying everybody's going to be open to what you're trying to throw out there. But at the same time, why should you be the roadblock to prevent somebody from expressing how they feel and why they feel that way? Because it only takes one person to truly listen to what somebody's opposite opinion of yours is for them to maybe open up and listen to what you have to say. Or maybe listen up to the fact of why you feel the way you do about critical race theory compared to what they think they know about critical race theory. Diversity and inclusion is needed to move forward in everything. Amen. Joe Kirk, my brother, you speaking pure facts and the truth. I try, man. This is just something that's I think we're getting too far away from what we're really trying to accomplish and getting too close to the fact of taking everything that is done by other folks toward us personal. There's an end goal to everything we're doing. There's an end goal to everything they're doing. When we talk about voting, this didn't just happen yesterday on what they're doing with the voting. They started a movement on how they were going to do it. The end goal is to minimize the impact of your vote as a Democrat or independent and make the Republican vote be the most outstanding vote that makes a matter because of the gerrymandering and the way they redrew the lines. It's that simple. It's that simple. We got to do better, y'all. We have to do better. Just saying. All right, y'all. Let's get into this. Mind, body, and soul. Mind, body, and soul. It's the year 2022. We're still taking it one day at a time, working on self-help, self-care. But this year, we're taking each and every 24 hours and bringing it down to the 1,440 minutes you get each and every day. Living by the moment, enjoying the moment in the totality of what it has to offer. And today's mind, body, and soul is very simple. It's very simple. When words fail, music speaks. When words fail, music speaks. You know, we all have gone through our breakups, our trials and tribulations, whatever goes on. And sometimes we'll put a song on that just sparks a memory or makes you feel good about the trials and tribulations you've been through, make you cry, make you laugh, make you smile, make you do anything, because sometimes our words can't truly express how we feel about something. So you choose to go to music and you put that song on and it takes you to a whole different place. It takes you back to a time. It puts you in a mindset of what you were dealing with at that time or at the current time. I think all of us can relate back to, and women probably didn't do this. I think we as men did it more often than women, and some women have done it, just as much. But there's been a time where, you were maybe interested in a woman or something, and you couldn't come up with those words. So what you do is you went and you recorded the song. You recorded that song and you sent it to her. Or you played it to her, when you was over there trying to boo up on the phone back in the day on your little phone. You say, hey, I want you to listen to this. And you push that song and let it play. Because you didn't know the words that you wanted to say, and a combination that you didn't know the words you wanted to say, but also you didn't want to seem like you was, too involved. You felt if somebody else was saying those words, you truly felt that it didn't hold you accountable. You feel me? See, when we fail with our words, when we fail on understanding how we feel, or we want to get a certain feeling, or we want to get to a place where it takes us away to a certain time, music speaks to us. Music speaks to the soul. Whether it's a rap song that you may be going to the gym trying to get hyped and you're throwing that Tupac, or you're going through something and you need to throw on that Kirk Franklin. One of them gospel songs, one of the old gospel spirituals that takes you back to a time to let you know that God is still in control. Or that love song when you're thinking about a breakup, or you're going through something, or you're telling your woman or your man how much you truly appreciate them. And you put that song on and you just look at them, you want to dance with them in the kitchen or something. Music speaks to the soul. Music fills in those gaps where we can't always express exactly what we want to say. I think sometimes we have to take back and go back to everything we talked about today, all the wrongs that are going on in the world and things like that. And we all know one of the biggest ways to get out of that mindset of what's all wrong in the world is to go down on our knees and thank God for who we are, where we are, and what he's done for us and what he will continue to do. But at the same time, sometimes that music that we need to listen to can take us out of that uncomfortable situation and put us in a mindset that we just breathe, we just listen, we just relax. Because sometimes words don't need to be spoken, but that music and the words in the music that you listen to can say everything that you need at that time. One of my favorite musicians, and a lot of people think this is controversial, but I'm going to say it. One of my favorite musicians, singers, all around musician, is R. Kelly. Controversial. A lot of people say they won't listen to his music anymore or anything like that. But for me, R. Kelly's music, from 12 Play all the way up to his last album or everything, there's certain songs that I can hear, that I listen to, that put me in a mindset of who I used to be, to make me realize who I am, who I've become, who I'm not anymore, why I was that person. There's songs that do it to you. It's just not me. And I say R. Kelly, a lot of people say you didn't have to put the name out there, but I do that for a reason. Because when you listen to music, you're listening to the music for the sound and the way it makes you feel. It's not about who wrote it. It's not about who sang it. It's about the words that are expressing in the moment of what that music is about and what it means to you. It has nothing to do with everybody else around you. It has nothing to do with how other people feel about who wrote the music, who's performing the music. What does it do for you in the time of what you need to be able to make it through? That's what music is all about. A lot of times we say you can't separate the message from the messenger. You do. You do it many times. And you also should be able to do it with music. Everyone has their cross to bear. But sometimes we find ways to hold other people's crosses that they have to bear more accountable, more heavy, more tragic to what they've done to others than what we've done. to others. And like I said, I don't say that to cover up for nobody, to overlook somebody or what they've done or anything like that. What I'm telling you is, you don't have the words. When you don't have the words, find a song. And if you're good at it, then you might be bad at it. You don't have to listen to the song. Sing that song. You don't have to have a good voice. You don't have to know all the words. You can hum that song. You can whistle that song. But what you'll find out is when that music takes you away from everything that's going on around you and puts you in a mindset that I'm going to be all right. I'm going to make it through. One way or another, music impacts us more than we give it credit for. And some of the people that have sang that music, no matter what their background is, have impacted us more than we give them credit for. I'm just saying. Sometimes we got to separate the message from the messenger depending on what the message we're trying to get across and what we're trying to do and what we're trying to get out of it. It's that simple. I appreciate everybody tuning in this morning. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Let me tell you something. This was an unscripted Saturday. I try to do these unscripted every once in a while because I want it to come from the heart, the passion. This is my passion. This is my passion. This is my purpose. This is what I want to do. And I want to make sure that what I'm giving you is not only information, but truthful information to make you think. Make you think, not to change your mind, but to think differently than you did when you heard about the story from the beginning. The bottom line about this show is to give you insight into what's going on out there, give you my opinion, and hopefully you get something out of it. You can say he's full of whatever, anything like that, but the bottom line is there's certain things going on in this world that we have to look at through a clear lens. We can't always look through them dirty glasses without cleaning them. We gotta be right and be up on what we're doing and how we're doing it. Not just today, but every day. And reach out to somebody today that you haven't talked to in a while. Just tell them you were thinking about them. Let them know they're still worthy. Let them know that God's still in control and everything that's going on around them, no matter good or bad, it's going to be all right. Everything is going to be all right. And as I say before I sign off, and we'll be back again next week. Trust and believe. As I say before I sign off, every week, love yourself, love one another, keep your head up. Most definitely, keep your faith in God. I love y'all, and I appreciate y'all. I'll holler at y'all next week. Peace.